A new week begins for LSU Fighting Tiger football.
Pressure comes, he unloads, and intercepted! Derek Stingley's got it in the end zone!
This is the Coach O Press Conference.
We look forward to seeing our guys today on Tell the Truth Monday, getting back to playing LSU style of football.
Coming up, Coach O sets the tone for this week. But first, from inside the Capital One studios on the campus of LSU, here is former Tiger Gordy Rush and the voice of your Fighting Tigers, Chris Blair.
Once again, good Monday afternoon. Welcome into the Coach O Press Conference, presented this week by People's Health. Tigers coming off a tough loss on the road. They fall under 500 now in SEC play. 500 overall, 4-4 on the season, with a 31-17 loss at the hands of the Ole Miss Rebels. They head into the off week for 2021. They'll be back in action November 6th against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Gordy Rush, it was a tough afternoon. I've called a lot of games in my time, and I typically, in all sports, you will see momentum change a couple of times. Doesn't always mean you're playing well, but momentum can swing one way or the other. It seemed like momentum swung one time after LSU came out, their fifth game out of 8 where they scored on their opening drive to go up 7-0. But after that, at the goal line, the interception almost swung, and that was all she wrote.
No, absolutely. LSU was dominant in the first quarter of this football game. That combined with the fact that Matt Corral was clearly limited from that ankle injury he suffered at Tennessee a week ago. I thought it was going to be LSU's day. And I guess I was as shell-shocked as everyone else, the way that the game turned, and really was a surprise, especially as well as LSU played last week against Florida.
Ole Miss very balanced in their attack, and it was pretty clear, as you pointed out, on the radio, and anybody watching the game in the stands or on television would have noticed he did not want to go run. I mean, he was going to stand in the pocket. Didn't even look like he was very comfortable making a lot of moves in the pocket. But eventually, as we said in the fourth quarter, he did just enough, and then give credit to his running backs. They kind of picked up the slack running the football. Ely, of course, Parrish had a good day. They had to respect the run, and he did just enough to make the run dangerous.
Well, it's a great job by Lane Kiffin, I think, changing his attack. Last week against Tennessee, mainly Corral was used as the lead guy, in between the tackles guy, and they did a great job of spreading the field, and he ran the ball 30-plus times. Some were on designated runs. Other were scrambles, if you will, and it looked like he picked up a lot of what Kentucky did, Chris, and there was some little parts of the Kentucky scheme, some of the sprint sweeps that they used. They used the inside zone with Snoop Connor and had a whole lot of success, and they had a field day throwing the football in the middle of the football field. His main target, I forget his name now, number 11 for Ole Miss, had an unbelievable day, the slot receiver on that play-action pass. But he did a great job of letting Matt Corral do other things, keeping him in the pocket and limiting his exposure.
Yeah, Ontario Drummond was on the tip of your tongue. He was the one with 8 catches, 93 yards. Utilized really all of the weapons they had at their disposal. Let's look at some of the positive. Again, LSU came out, looked like they were ready to play. Ole Miss won the toss. They said, hey, we want to take the football. We're a high-powered offense. LSU defense forces the punt, and the Tigers go right down the field, get a 7-0 lead. And defensively, of course, you can't leave out the effort of Damone Clark, which has been there every single game this year, regardless of the outcome. His high motor, his ability to cover the field, be involved in tackles, has been impressive. He carried it in. I think they really have him with 19 tackles. At one time, they had 20 tackles, but once the book was all settled, they had him at 19. Still a career high for that young man. And it was great to see Neil Farrell Jr., who I think now has put back-to-back great games there at the center of the defense.
Played really well. And there were some bright spots, no question about that. Unfortunately, look, it snowballed on LSU. They started, after having a great first quarter offensively, they started struggling to move the football, kept the defense on the field, and Lane Train got that thing going, and it was just too much Ole Miss the rest of the game.
I know you were down there on the sidelines, and what was confounding to see, and it goes to show you how much Ole Miss had momentum and how much confidence they had. I've got 4 times in the game, 3rd and 9 or longer.
Yes.
And you don't have to be a football genius to know, okay, that sounds like a passing down situation. They go to the delay run. They go to the ground to get the first downs, and they rip up a ton of yards. Now, one was called back on a penalty.
Right.
But then the very next play, they go for an even bigger amount. They even picked up one on 4th and 7 running the football. Down there in the trenches, what did you see? I know we were worried about their passing game in a passing down, but we were out of position, a couple of missed tackles, and they got big runs on 3rd and long.
Yeah, it's not as if Ole Miss was really stretching the football field with a lot of vertical passes. LSU just got too much depth on those 3rd and long, 3rd and 18. I think there was one that Ely was able to convert. They got too much depth and too much cushion there. And then again, with all the injuries and all the substitutions, and we know this team's been hit hard on the back end. Just too many, again, bust assignments, Chris. Who's got contained? Who has secondary run enforcement that is going to come up and make sure that you turn that thing in? And then there were missed tackles, and it's just not a good look. And give Ole Miss credit. They ran the football on 3rd and long. I wish LSU would have ran the football a little bit more on those 3rd when teams are rushing 3 and dropping 8, and vice versa. I thought Ole Miss did a really good job on 1st down with some play action, high percentage passes.
Well, the thing we all heard last week, again, coming off the success LSU had on the ground with that new wrinkle and the counter trap, the joke was, well, that's probably the only play Ole Miss worked on defensively because they did not want to have happen to them what happened to a very good front 7 for the Florida Gators, which was the inability to stop it. I actually said on the radio broadcast, I talked to a friend of mine who's involved in the Ole Miss football program. They said their scout team tied in towards the end of the week said, guys, that's it. I can't do it anymore.
Right.
Like, that's how much they worked on it.
Yep.
And to their credit, LSU did not have success running the ball.
No, they did. Look, Ole Miss, that's one of the things when you look at a game like Florida where LSU was really, really good running the same 2 or 3 plays, you've got excellent coordinators in this conference. DJ Durkin is certainly one of them. And every time an offensive lineman pulled, they replaced him, right? Either a safety or a linebacker. And those are times where you're outnumbered at the box. Those are times I think that you look at it on film, and if it's an RPO or it's an opportunity to play action pass, if they've got that many people in the box, then that's a situation you ought to throw the football because you got man coverage on the back end. That's what the numbers are dictating.
I started out today saying it was a game where the Mo swung one time and that was it, but it was not without opportunities. And I really felt like LSU played hard. Those guys were giving it everything they had, but there were certain plays in the game, 2nd quarter, 3rd quarter, even in the early 4th quarter, where a play here, a play there, maybe gets that momentum back your side. LSU, unfortunately, just didn't make those plays. Had a couple of drop passes, had some errant passes, had some missed tackles in critical situations that didn't allow them to get as competent as Ole Miss was.
And conversely, Ole Miss made the plays. You go back to forcing the punt late in the 2nd quarter, being able to drive down and get that touchdown to get a little separation. I thought that was a big play in the football game. And again, what they started, if I'm not mistaken, they started off that drive with a quarterback toss back to Corral, who was limited. I mean, he caught the football and basically stepped out of bounds. But Lane did a great job play calling, and it seemed like he would always have that call to jumpstart the situation.
Well, whenever you have a game, whether it be even in a big win, certainly in a tough loss, and you play 2 quarterbacks, what's the obvious question that every fan's going to ask come Monday? That is, do you make a change at quarterback? Now, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that's part of the conversation because how do you feel Max Johnson played? How did you feel like when Garrett Nussmeier came in there late in the game? Maybe not a chance to bring the Tigers back, just getting some reps in. What do you look at the quarterback situation going into the off week?
Yeah, it's situation too, right? A situation in the ball game, Ole Miss comfortably ahead, and I look, Nussmeier did some great things. And what does that look like? We're talking about in the first half. I think he should. Definitely with this situation where LSU is 4-4 on the season, where there's an opportunity to play him, you absolutely play him. You wonder about putting him you don't want to put him in a difficult spot on the road in 2 weeks in Tuscaloosa in a neutral game. But definitely Nussmeier, I think, has earned the opportunity for some more snaps.
All right. Well, the Tigers will go into the off week. It was a tough loss, 31-17 to Ole Miss. First win for the Rebels in 5 seasons, but I said earlier today, the Rebel fans did exactly what I expected them to do. They haven't beat LSU very often. They hadn't beaten them in 5 years, but once they got a 2-score game, They were gone.
Yep.
It was time to reverse tailgate there in Oxford.
But the Grove's, it was a beautiful day. The Grove's a beautiful place, and they had a lot to celebrate. And obviously, it had been since 2015 since they won, and they did a great job with Eli Manning's jersey. So there was a lot to celebrate in Oxford. Unfortunately, not much for the purple and gold.
We'll put it in the rear view. Coming up, we'll talk about what Gordy feels like maybe is the emphasis this week and certainly next week leading up to the return to the gridiron against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Fans, don't forget, bring some flavor to your game day, or every day for that matter, with Tabasco hot sauce. Go Tigers, go Tabasco, the official hot sauce of LSU Athletics. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, Coach Ed Ogeron will address the media, take questions from those assembled via Zoom, and we'll talk about what we expect over the next 2 weeks when we come back right here on the LSU Sports Radio Network.
Do you have Medicare and make $1,615 per month? Or do you have Medicare and Medicaid? You may be eligible for extra benefits you're not getting now, and you may be able to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan from People's Health. Don't wait. If you enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan from People's Health today, your benefits may begin the first day of next month. Call 1-855-410-7761. That's 1-855-410-7761. People's Health, your Medicare health team.
Your team is on a 3-game winning streak, and you're convinced it's because you've worn your lucky football jersey and haven't taken it off. Not for work, a wedding, or even bathing. With Cox, you can actually wear it all season long because we give you game day coverage and content 24/7. So join us and dress accordingly.
Hey, Tiger fans, just say Fan Zone into your Contour voice remote and enhance your game day experience all week long. Play games, win prizes. Cox, we're LSU fans 24/7.
LSU Tiger fans are gearing up with real Tigers apparel and merchandise from the official online store at lsushop.net. Get jerseys, sideline gear, polos, t-shirts, hats, official team merchandise from Nike, accessories, and much more. Over 3,600 products, all shipped right to your door. Head to the place real Tiger fans go for the selection only real Tiger fans get at lsushop.net.
We always picture the SEC student athlete for their speed, their vertical, their agility. But it's time we picture them for more. For their campus voice, their community outreach, and for the simple fact that 20 years later, they're still someone's pride and joy. More than students, more than athletes. In the SEC, it just means more.
Leading you up to this week's Coach O press conference. Here again are Gordy Rush and Chris Blair.
Coming up, we'll hand it off to head coach Ed Ogeron at the bottom half of the hour. He usually joins us around 12:30. The Coach O press conference this week presented by People's Health. All right, 4-4, under 500 now in the SEC. You get the off week, Gordy. Now you head into Tuscaloosa against an Alabama team that, let's be honest, has shown some weakness this year. They were able to pull away from Tennessee this past week, had the loss against Texas A&M. Still a great team, still number 4 in the land, so it's going to be a tall challenge, and nothing's really changed.
No question. They've got a new quarterback in Bryce Young, who is dual-threat quarterback, is fantastic, but this offense, who lost so many players to the NFL a year ago, they're still finding their rhythm. I say that, and they're one of the highest-scoring teams in the SEC. I don't think anybody in college football, Chris, is elite this year. Georgia is probably the closest thing to it, but they've had some questions at the quarterback position. But Alabama, very, very good football team. They've got 2 weeks to rest, and obviously they're trying to make it to the SEC championship to square off against Georgia.
All right, well, we'll save the talk for Alabama next week. Otherwise, we won't have anything to talk about on Monday. Let's talk about LSU. I think the emphasis obviously has to be on this team. Where are the biggest priorities going into the off week, going into next week? And when you consider the number of players you were counting on to start the year, some of which you've been without for a number of weeks now, that's obviously true. A couple of more rash of injuries over the last couple of weeks. We're seeing a defense specifically that, we're seeing guys getting minutes that frankly we didn't think would see a lot of minutes. I'll start in the secondary because, again, you're without both All-American corners. You've had to make a number of changes at the safety position. Sage Ryan, of course, only able to go 2 weeks ago. Now he's gotten a couple of games under his belt. The secondary, is it all about just upping the reps for the guys that now this is who we're going to have to go with?
No question. And one of the problems, you're facing some of the best coordinators in the country. And what Kentucky, the last 3 weeks, Kentucky, Florida, and Ole Miss have done is they've given you a whole lot of eye candy, a lot of really creative sets. And what they're doing is testing how well you know the defense. How well do you know that you have contained? What's your run support angles? Who do you have? And then really trusting, or rather checking your discipline. And what we're seeing is a lot of LSU players on the back end are caught up what we call eye candy, Chris. Mm-hmm. Instead of doing their assignment and watching their key, they're watching all the play action movement. They're watching the motion, the jet motion, and things like that. And too many times we've seen busted assignments. So I think defensively, you want to go with who you got healthy here and go through as many repetitions and try to get the people that are going to have to play now that didn't get a whole lot of work on this defense in August or in camp because they might have been third string, or they might have been third string or playing a different position. Give them reps at the position they're going to play.
All right, let's talk about this. This is something I noticed going back to Kentucky, but also a little more so in a positive note against Florida, and then a little step back against Ole Miss this past weekend. You've gotten great play from your front four, and I really believe Glenn Logan and Neil Farrell, with Glenn coming back, getting to play his first game against Florida, both of those guys made each other better in the middle of that defense. I feel like you've got still really good talent and good players at defensive end for you. They are at times getting into the offensive backfield, but there's the guys that are supposed to be the cavalry to come in and close the deal aren't there. How do you improve that? If those guys are getting upfield, where do you bring in the other guys to make the tackle, make the stop, especially against the run?
No, I don't know. And I mean, that's something, again, you go back and you look at film and you got a couple games in which you've had issues with that. And it starts with run fits, and that's the thing that for me, where are you supposed to be? Who's not where they're supposed to be? Who's not playing the right technique? A lot of your front seven have been able to play. Right, even the freshmen have played some good ball. Where are the holes? What's going on? And how do we get back to filling just some of the fundamentals that are getting broken down in the middle of the game?
All right, this may be the most obvious question I ever ask you. There have been games this season that LSU's offense has been consistent. 2 weeks ago, they put up 49 points to outscore a Florida Gator team that obviously can put up points. What's there in that game that's not there in others when they struggle offensively? Where is the consistency lacking, and how do you fix that over the next 10 to 12 days?
To me, one thing is going to be, I think, the numbers. There are too many times where I think LSU's trying to throw the ball into 8, right? Or is running the ball into defensive fronts that are +1. For instance, against Ole Miss, their linebacker, number 44, had a whale of a football game as they continued to shoot him and then support him and backfill him with the safety. So LSU trying to run the football into numbers instead of play action and throwing it against man coverage. The matchup is on the back end. And like you talked about, what I thought Ole Miss did a great job, running the ball on 3rd and 8 against a defense that's dropping 7 or 8 is a really good chance of being able to convert, especially the way that Ty Davis Price has been running. So, I think now that you've found this offense, meaning the 11 package with Mashburn, the 12 package with Dellinger and Mashburn has been kind of the new staple and the new identity, is, I think, learning to counter yourself and taking a step back, having a week off. And when we do this, teams are going to they're going to react this way. So we need to be prepared to play action it, pull it out, throw the slant, take advantage of the one-on-one coverage.
I know we always look at this and the situation LSU is in here in 2021 is what is the mental attitude of a team. I think we all are that are around the team and around this coaching staff, they're all meant and built and wired to go out and compete and go out and win. How important is it over the next 10 to 12 days to maybe make practice, maybe make preparation fun?
Yeah.
These guys enjoying football, to go over there and take on the mighty Alabama when nobody in the country except those guys in the locker room are going to even believe for a second they got a chance to win.
Look, the X's and O's are one thing. We've talked about that, but I think you hit on the most important thing that I think Coach Ogeron and the staff have to do is get this team re-engaged. Last Sunday, obviously, was traumatic for everybody, and they came ready to play. I'll give them credit against Ole Miss. until you had that fourth down, got kind of hit mouth, and they didn't react well. I think that's the biggest challenge this week.
All right, let's go to head coach Ed Ogeron.
All over the field. I thought he played with great effort, showed us great leadership. Neil Farrell had 9 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss and a sack. That's his most productive game. Here is a Tiger. He still has some gap integrity stuff to take care of, and he knows that, but very proud of the production of Neil. On offense, some of the things we got to improve. Obviously, scoring on the goal line. When we didn't score down there was key to me in the ball game. -3 in the turnover ratio. We not get enough turnovers, and we had too many turnovers. Didn't protect the quarterback like we wanted to, and we just couldn't find the seams, and we didn't block their stunts and slants like we wanted to in the run game. On defense, it all came down to gap integrity. Just stay in your gap and tackle and set the edge. Those are the 2 biggest things that we got to improve on coming up this week. Open date, fix LSU first before we move on to our opponent. Our guys are self-scouting today. Tomorrow will be a light practice. Wednesday will be a light practice. Thursday will be the Tiger Bowl. Thursday and Friday, all our coaches, including myself, will be out recruiting and watching games. Any questions?
Hey, Coach, good morning. A couple questions for you. The talk after the game, at least what I'm hearing, is to ask you is about adjustments, halftime adjustments, and maybe a lack of adjustments. Looking at the film, do you feel like you guys could have changed some things?
No question. I think that's something that we have to get better at during the game. You know, Jock, you don't want to wait to halftime. I want to get those things fixed on the sideline after the series. Sometimes it's happening, sometimes it's not. But obviously in the third and the fourth quarter, when we're not playing well, we need to do better at halftime adjustments. There's no question about that.
Coach, how do you think your assistants are doing, juggling, kind of in their brain, wondering where am I going to be working next year, and then also trying to do the best job they can for LSU at the moment?
You know, what I see every day, they're doing the best job for LSU at the moment. We have meetings. Everybody's early for meetings. We have offensive and defensive meetings. That door's shut. They're in there. Nothing has changed in the building as far as I know.
Hey, Coach, I know you mentioned recruiting just a couple minutes ago. Just what does recruiting look like on a typical open week for you guys? And I guess maybe how does it change this year, if any?
Yeah, evaluation. You can't talk to the guys. You got to take care of Louisiana first. We're going to Louisiana. We're going to see some key players in Houston. We go to the school, obviously. Talk to the guidance counselor, check their grades, ask the coach how they're doing, maybe see a workout, maybe not see a workout, but definitely see a game. I think it's more or less being visible, and then number 2, evaluating some prospects out there. But a lot of the prospects that we're seeing are committed to us and or have an offer from us. So it's just a matter of recruiting and going to recruit the coach. Obviously, can't talk to them.
Ed, you mentioned after the game that Garrett gave y'all a spark there. Obviously, it was kind of in the score was a little bit out of hand at that point, but do you take the bye week at all to look at that position?
No, Max is still out starting quarterback. He was a little beat up. He got hit, and he made a tremendous play to Trey Palmer. That was a tremendous play, and he took a big hit. He was getting some hits in there, and I just wanted to give him a break, get Garrett some time. I told Garrett I'd give him some time. But Max is still out starting quarterback, but if there's a chance for us to give Garrett some time in there, some quality reps, we will.
And it got to a point there against Ole Miss to where you guys were down to some third-string guys in there in the secondary, with injuries and other things going on. Is there an update on how some of those guys are doing, what the plan on for the bye, whether it be Cordell Flott, Major Burns, and those guys? Yeah,
Major is not available right now. Cordell Flott won't be available this week for practice. Hopefully he's available next week. I will not know that. Anthony Bradford will be unavailable the rest of the season. That's the only update I have right now to give you definitely.
Hey, Coach, Steve Moulton, WZZN. I feel like I'm the designated asking about Miles Brennan. How is his rehab coming along, and is there any update on his status?
Yeah, he was thrown the other day. I don't expect him back next week. I have not talked to him. Bo hasn't said anything about him practicing. I don't think he's ready to practice right now, and I don't expect him back next week.
And I do have one more. You've played both of these teams. They're matching up this week. Just got through with Ole Miss. Ole Miss Auburn. What do you think of that matchup, Coach?
2 good football teams. It'll be a good game.
Hey, Daniels here. Coach, when the recruits ask you about the future,
yeah,
and that's obviously something that's going to come up, sir, what do you tell them?
I tell them that I recruited them to come to LSU. LSU is still the same, that I want them to come to LSU. I still think LSU is going to be a great place for them. And I told the athletic director, I'm going to recruit for LSU till the day I'm not here, and probably some after. So I believe in LSU. I've always believed in it, especially when you're a young man from the state of Louisiana. This is the best school for you to come to school at. And I wholeheartedly believe that, and I'm not going to back off of that.
Ed, with Anthony Bradford out, we also didn't see Cam Wire at the game. Do you have to take this week to evaluate what you have along the offensive line?
Yeah, I think Cam's going to be ready. Looks like Cam's going to be ready. We talked about it this morning, and we're going to see how he does this week. But I do believe he's going to be ready.
Chase on as well, maybe?
Maybe. Not able to practice in the next couple of days, but I think he's going to be ready for Alabama.
Yeah, hey, Coach. I mean, we've really got to see a lot of these freshman receivers this year. I know we've asked you about him a lot, but just, Malik Neighbors is one guy that I think has come along really the last couple of weeks. What do you like about him and kind of his development over the last couple of weeks and what he can do the rest of the season?
Very smooth receiver, great route runner, has great eye discipline, catch radius, is very, very competitive. And, he also played defense. He's tough. I mean, he could probably start for us at safety. He is an excellent athlete. He's going to be an excellent player here.
Hey, Coach, a couple of fill of week, if you don't mind. You talked about Neal and his progression, kind of like Damone. What did you guys specifically want him to improve upon?
No.
And why do you think he's having such a good season?
Yeah, open field tackling, pass coverage. And, Mike, you come out here any Saturday or Sunday, anytime during the day, usually, in the off season, Damone's working out. I mean, he is relentless, and he's worked a lot on his hip flexibility. He's a big, strong athlete, very fast. Now he's working on his flexibility where he can flip his hips and man coverage. And you see it the other day. He's done a phenomenal job on that, and his open field tackling has just been off the charts. That tackle he made on that quarterback on the sideline, and him running that quarterback down was a phenomenal football play.
How about Neal? Because he's a guy that, I guess he sat out right last year,
yep.
And then had to come back and get conditioned. And,
yep.
Just what has he really improved upon?
Neal, first of all, he's improved in his condition. He still has a ways to go. He lost some weight, but you know what? Neal came back hungry. Neal has a great feel for the ball. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it gets him in trouble. He jumps out of his gap and he makes a big play, and sometimes he jumps out of his gap and the ball goes into his gap. So I think that his awareness, his ability to shed blocks, it's been hard for them to single block him. He has destroyed some single blocks. He's played really, really well with his technique because he explodes and he comes out of his hips and uses his hands. The thing he still needs to work on is gap discipline.
Do you think that year away made him hungrier? Do you think that changed his mindset?
Yeah, he came back a different cat.
Okay. And then just finally on the practice side of things this week, you talk about taking it slow. Obviously, you got a lot of injuries you got to manage, et cetera. Is this week really about self-scouting and let's figure out kind of get back to fundamentals? A lot of times coaches use the open day to stress the fundamentals and tackling, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We're not going to have any pads on all week. I'm going to give the guy their beat up. They've been going 8 weeks straight plus camp. We got a lot of nagging injuries, so we're going to go helmets and spider pads, but it's going to be more teaching. We have some things on offense and defense that we want to put in and we want to look at, so it's a good time to do that and also a good time to self-scout. But basically, we're going to have a Monday practice tomorrow and just an installment practice on Wednesday, and then the younger players bet the scrimmage in the Tiger Bowl on Thursday.
Coach, you mentioned about Alabama earlier. Do you have an early thought on how Alabama looks so far this year?
Very good again. I watch them play on TV when we see them, and obviously a very well coached football team, very very talented, very disciplined.
Coach, I know we've been talking about Damone for the past 2 days about physically what he's improved on, but when I watch him, he's just as happy for other guys making plays as he is for himself. I mean, is that leadership quality, is that kind of one of the biggest things, especially in a time like this where you're kind of low on roster?
Well, I think Damone has done a tremendous job for us in that area. We count on Damone. He's from the Baton Rouge area. He loves LSU. He's got a bright future, and his leadership qualities are invaluable for us. And he's been a leader ever since he stepped on campus here, and we really appreciate his leadership.
Coach, a lot of talk about Damone today. I'm just curious, what impact has Blake Baker had on him in that regard, and what's it been like to be around Blake as a young assistant coach? What kind of future do you think he has? Yeah,
Blake's an outstanding coach, outstanding recruiter. He has a great relationship with his players. I know his players love him. He's a good fundamental coach. He and I went in his interview agreed on how to deliver a blow, how to use your hands, how to lock, peek, and shed. All the things that we teach as defensive linemen that we learned from Pete Jenkins, he was in total agreement with it. He comes from the same family background of coaches that I come from. But the thing that Blake is the most talented at, he knows how to deliver it to his players, and his players believe in him.
Thank you.
Hey, Ed, obviously one of your skills is known for being a good motivator of players. Do you feel like you have to motivate them in a different way for these last 4 games or say anything different or given the situation, or do you feel like that they're still well motivated?
I feel they're still well motivated, Scott. There was a lot of want to before that game and still throughout the game. As far as want to, I have not seen that in this team. I do believe a week off is going to help. I do believe us playing Alabama next week is not much has to be said. It shouldn't be because of the type of team that Alabama is. We're going on the road to play them. So I think our guys are going to finish out. There's a lot of guys that are in there last year that want to finish out, that want to play great. There's some young guys that want to prove themselves. So I think there's a lot of motivation. In fact, I know there's a lot of motivation left. There's a lot of motivation in our staff. Our practice has been energized. Nothing has gone down in our practice as far as energy and the volume our players are putting out. So I believe it's going to be a strong finish.
Hey, Ed, 2 questions. The first one, always talk about Damone Clark. How important and impactful has it been for him to have this kind of a season while representing number 18?
Yeah, that's a good point. The number 18 is character, what you do on and off the field, sort of like the perfect player, and not necessarily is the best player. And we gave him the number 18 because of academics, his leadership, his work in the weight room, the way he handles himself, and then to be a great player on top of it just adds to the number, which is a great number. It's a great tradition. I love the tradition.
And I know the game is not until next weekend, but, waking up today or going forward, have you had any thoughts about next weekend being your last game against Alabama as LSU head coach?
I don't look at it like that. I don't have time to look at it like that. And again, it's not me. It's not about me. This is about me representing these young men. I take it one day at a time. Today we're working on Self Scout. I think I'm going to worry about that when it's all said and done. I'm going to look at it and say, man, it passed by fast, But until then, I'm not even going to think about it.
Hey, Ed, just wanted to sneak in here before you go. Jamar Chase obviously is tearing it up in the NFL, and you saw that firsthand. If you could speak to his skill set and how it's really exploded. Both him and Justin, I guess, have both kind of taken over.
I'm just so happy for them. I know how hard they work. I know what type of human beings they are. They're great people. Look at it. Both of them from the state of Louisiana came to LSU, developed, and they're having a great career in the NFL. Their families are happy. Joe is happy. I'm just so happy for all of them that represent LSU in the state of Louisiana. And then again, these guys poured their heart and their soul out for the state of Louisiana and LSU, and now they're getting in return. And I'm so happy for all of them.
Hey, Coach. I noticed that Dre Jenkins has continued to kind of increase his role these past couple of games. I just wanted to know if you could speak on how he has progressed and how you expect him to finish out this season.
Yeah, he stepped up. He saw an opportunity, and he competed. And there was who was going to be the next guy. And without verbally saying it, he went out there to practice and proved every day that he was going to be the next guy. And he's turned out to be a guy that we can count on. He's always been that. But now he's getting more balls. He's getting significant balls that maybe Kayshawn might have got. And so he's earned his way. And I believe he's going to have a strong finish. Dre's one of our team leaders from Jena, Louisiana. It's a great story.
Thank you.
Hey, guys, go Tigers.
Head Coach Ed Ogeron with today's Coach O press conference presented by People's Health. We'll take a quick break. We'll set the schedule for the rest of this week and wrap things up here on the LSU Sports Radio Network. Support your LSU Tigers with Hancock Whitney, the official bank of LSU Athletics. From game day to the offseason, Hancock Whitney LSU credit and debit cards are a big win for any Tiger fan. Want to get your paws on these cards? Well, apply online or visit HancockWhitney.com/LSU. Hancock Whitney Bank, member FDIC. All accounts subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions may apply.
Our Lady of the Lake, just like LSU, is anchored by deep roots put down almost a century ago. We share a singular vision to advance health, education, and research to serve the incredible people of Louisiana. Our partnership with LSU is inspired by our passions for knowledge and our commitments to our community and healthy Louisiana families. Together, there's nowhere we can't go. Our Lady of the Lake is proud to be the healthcare provider of LSU Athletics.
Hey, Tiger fans, this is Chris Blair inviting you to become part of our LSU Athletics podcast world. For the very latest on the Tigers, whenever it's convenient for you, catch Cody Worsham and number 18, Jacob Hester, for the Hey Fighting Podcast, a look inside LSU football. Join me and hear from some of the great voices of college sports on Hearing Voices. Get up to speed on the Tigers' next opponent with LSU Recon, plus replays of the Ed Ogeron Show and many more. Find them all at lsusports.net/podcast, on the LSU Sports mobile app, and anywhere podcasts can be found. Subscribe today.
We always picture the SEC student athlete for their speed, their vertical, their agility, but it's time we picture them for more. For their campus voice, their community outreach, and for the simple fact that 20 years later, they're still someone's pride and joy. More than students, more than athletes. In the SEC, it just means more.
This is the Coach O press conference.
Tigers head into the off week here in 2021. They'll be back in action coming up November 6th in Tuscaloosa. They'll take on Alabama. It was announced earlier today, the Southeastern Conference and its television partners putting a 6-day hold on the start time. Although just by looking around, best guess is probably an opportunity at 11 a.m., 2:30, or 6 o'clock. But again, a 6-day hold on the start time and kickoff time for Alabama and LSU. Basketball season, by the way, around the corner, and women's basketball will be in action this coming weekend inside the Maravich Center. Exhibition basketball, your first chance to see Coach Kim Mulkey and the Tigers. They'll take on Langston inside the PMAC 2 o'clock tip time. Then on November 4th, they will take on Loyola out of New Orleans. That one tipping off at 6 o'clock before basketball has its opening day, November 9th. Women's basketball takes on Nichols at 11 a.m., and then the men will take on ULM later that evening with tip-off at 7 o'clock. The journalists got their chance today with Coach O. Your chance coming up on Wednesday. The Ed Ogeron Show live from TJ Ribs will start at 7 o'clock. Hope to have you join us. If not, don't forget you can call in. Enjoy your Saturday. Check out some women's basketball coming up this weekend as well. And we'll be back here next week getting you ready on Monday for the Coach O press conference leading up to LSU and Alabama. My thanks to Gordy Rush. Thanks to you for tuning in. Until then, so long, everybody, and go Tigers.
This has been the Coach O press conference. For the very latest, follow LSU football on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, or log on to lsusports.net. The LSU Sports Radio Network, a division of LSU SP and Playfly Sports.